Hey everyone, welcome back to another exciting match of attack predictions. Today, Bankrupt joins game by Jimmy and Jake.
Yeah.
What's going on? Yeah.
The fuck?
You guys, what
Same
happened
time.
there?
Efficiency. Same time. Let's
That's
roll.
fair. That's fair. Let's keep going on this timed match because it's going just as fast as we can see it. Today's matchup is, well, it's Jimmy versus Jake. Jimmy's brought back Gamma, which is a fantastic leader. He's also playing the metal leader, which I think this is the gold Gamma leader, which also is a very beautiful card. And
Yes, sir.
Jake's playing a regular Bardock Screw leader for the Bardock Crew deck.
It's stamped.
Oh, that's even better, actually.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
like always, click the buttons down below. The dev reason, there's links. They help you like they help us. And let's get into today's matchup.
Bardock plays bunch of monkeys.
It does. These are kind of like both decks we've had on the channel before. So I think it's just kind of interesting overall how this kind of match played out. I hadn't played against Gamma in a while, so I wasn't really sure like when things were gonna pop off. And I think you kind of had the same feeling playing against Bardock.
I know turn 3 is where your deck is going to really shine because it has enough energy to go off. I don't think there's any cards that require you to have a certain energy cost, but I know that turn 3 is when you can just start filling the board. So I was playing with that clock in mind. So some of my choices were geared towards that, and luckily for my case with Gamma, turn 3 is when I start to be able to utilize a lot of my effects. With that being able to just pick up my energy and then relay it. So it did feel bad having to energy exhaust my super combo on turn 1, but I know I can just pick it right back up once I awaken. And again, something annoying with the androgynous man that I just played. Off the top 5 search, if you don't lay anything, you still have to bottom deck an energy, which is sometimes a risk, even in a deck that is 90% androids. There still is the risk that you whiff and then you just have to lose an energy, which would have really sucked. So I did take the gamble there because I had not drawn into a lot of androids, saying that I had to charge my Android 18 super combo on turn 1. So that is something to keep in mind if you are planning on playing Gamma.
Yeah, and unfortunately here, astute Bardock players will notice that even after this draw 3, I'm stuck on 3 members of the Bardock's crew, Bardock, Shugesh, and Borgos, and I'm not able to awaken on turn 2, which really kind of slows down a lot of the pressure I'm able to... see, I'm even super comboing here and hit another Shugesh. Like, trying so hard to be able to awaken because it's kind of necessary for the tempo of this match, I feel like, and despite my best efforts, I just wasn't able to get there on this second turn.
I have very little experience playing with Bardock crew, and I knew that I was counting your energy and your battle area, and I was like, that is 4, but that don't seem right. And I was like waiting for the combo to come down to put another name in a face-up area, and it didn't come, and I was like, oh, okay, maybe I need to like maybe he's like 4D chess big braining me, or maybe I need to put on the gas. And I don't think I pressure as much as I should have in this case, but I did make some plays I probably shouldn't have, knowing that you could pop off on this next turn.
I think it's important to try and force me to awaken here, because if I have access to 4 energy on my turn 3, when that's my go off turn anyway, at least if that's your like going theory, and it's pretty true. Like post turn 3, you can just do it whenever, but 3 is kind of like when the pressure really starts. Yeah, so trying to force me to awaken here is a really solid technique overall, I feel like, because it will just keep my potentiality down. And you going for the unison here is interesting. I wasn't really thinking about going with that game plan, considering all of the counterplays that are extant in blue. But once you took the markers off of my unison, I was like, man, I kind of wish he attacked my life. Like,
something that I've been kind of thinking about with the meta going into Zenkai and the way Zenkai leaders are balanced with most of them being at the 3 life total, even some at 2, with some minor exceptions like Vegito being at 4 life. There was a period in the game where you would awaken starve your opponent and keep them at like 5 to 6 life for most of the game until you're established and you can go for a kill. And then the meta shifted because so many decks had alternate awakens. So like Gamma 1 and 2, I awaken when I have a unison in play. So you can't awaken starve me because I can just awaken myself using an alternate method. With Z leaders, we're almost like pivoting back into that meta of starving your opponent out at 4 life and forcing them to take their life, or run cards to pick up their own life so that they can get into Z awaken range. So I could have pressured more with the Z battle card Frieza, but I chose to go after the unison because I didn't want to put you in Z awakening range.
and that might be something for me to consider going forward. That hasn't really been an aspect I've considered in my gameplay, because I remember well the Awakening Starve days, and I feel like just the way I manage resources in a card game, I was honestly probably a more solid player at that time. And maybe now, since I'm not implementing that strategy against my opponent's Z leaders, maybe they're getting more value out of those Z leaders than they should.
Like, I don't know if it's because a lot of the leaders are very strong in themselves, and then the Z leader is just a slight upgrade in some fashion. So it's probably not as potent as it used to be, where used to a front side of a leader was attack a leader card, draw a card. Now, like, your backside of your Bardock leader is fantastic. It's got built-in removal. You draw when you play cards, and you're going to be playing cards anyway. Like, I think it's a fantastic leader, and the Zia leader is just a slight upgrade. To that leader. So it's probably not as impotent.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I would say it's probably not as potent as a strategy as it used to be, but it's still something that I think about when I'm going up against matches where there is a prominent Z leader.
Yeah, I think the Bardock Z leader loses a little bit of draw power on the backside, unless you draw a card and then Z awaken. Or draw a card, I mean, by playing a Bardock's crew and then Z awaken, and then combo a Bardock's crew and draw again. On that specific turn, you gain draw power, but after that, most cards that you combo are either going to the Z energy or drop area, and I think that's a little bit less valuable than a card on board. So, you do kind of lose. You will slowly bleed card advantage on your Z side, I guess we can call that. Mm-hmm. So you don't want to spend a large chunk of the game on it if you can help it. At least that's been my experience.
Mm-hmm. So, talk about my energy lay there. I didn't want to go down on an energy, so I chose to once again row my 18 super combo. Pretty much the androids that you see in my energy currently are the androids that I just have in general access to me. I do have some of the counterplay Android 18s in my hand, which is fantastic against your deck because pretty much every battle card you play is 4 or less. So I wanted to keep those in hand. I wanted to keep at least one other super combo in hand, and I didn't want to I did, like I said, I didn't want to go down on an energy, so I once again had to row the Android 18, which just felt really, really bad. Which is one of the first times I've ever been starved for androids in an Android deck. I drew into probably everything that wasn't an android in my deck.
Oh no.
Yeah, exactly. Even though I can just get right back access to them at the end of every turn, it still just felt really awkward at this stage of the game.
Yeah, and here I actually can't afford to use the second auto to play additional apes here, so I just kind of rely on the deflect from this 4-drop Bardock and just basically play another 1-drop 20k.
I think I may have flashed my hand, not literally, but flashed my strategy when I was asking, like, does that card have deflect? And you were like, yeah, and then you're like thinking, well, I'm not going to activate the auto, which I wish I just would have kept my mouth shut, and hopefully you would have activated the auto, and then I could have sniped both cards with Android 18.
So I was actually worried about God Sealing. So we later discussed that you can't really activate that in this deck, but there are counterplays that you do have access to, and that's kind of the reason I'm going into all of my deflect cards on this turn.
So I went with the 16 play because if you're playing deflect, then revenge is pretty much my only option to dealing with those cards. You did burn a super combo, which forced me to burn my super combo, which I think more valuable trade-off on my end because I get to keep my 16 and remove a card on your end. But it did feel bad burning the super combo. Also, every time that card comes down, I forget it existed.
Yeah. It took long enough for it to be good, but here it is.
I tried to make it good when it come out, and it was I think it was in my energy about every game that I played with it, and then I just shut it out of my brain.
Yeah, in this deck, you're pretty much always going to have an ape. You can play an ape during your opponent's turn, even if you have a clear board, so it's not as big of a risk as some cards have been in the past.
Which this cell card is just disgusting. Like,
yeah, we haven't really talked about much of the like micro that was going on in this game. We kind of talked about like the wider matchup in general. I mean, Jimmy's discussed a lot of his plays, but I haven't really spent a lot of time in depth in mine. And just looking back on this game, it's interesting to see how cornered I was for the entire game, even without realizing it.
Like, I knew Bardock Crew, a lot of its deck space is dedicated to its Bardock Crew package, and it does have alternatives to other yellow staples just built in. But at least for me, Gamma has always had a rough matchup with yellow. So I was scared going into this matchup, and while I felt like I was in the driver's seat for most of it, I felt like at any moment it could just switch gears. And with just how explosive I've seen Bardock Crew be as a deck. So I was still at every moment in this game kind of like pacing myself to deal with a go-off turn from your side.
Yeah, I haven't really been able to get much going. It's just the ability of that 17 and 18 unison to hold on to markers just completely discouraged me from attacking it, which meant that my 3 drops, like the ape I'm trying to play right now, were susceptible to counterplays the entire game, which really made me uncomfortable and really like kept me from like designing a go off turn in my head.
Mm-hmm.
So without like having that kind of like pre-planning about what I'm gonna play and how I'm gonna do it, I feel like I'm just kind of like slapping cards on the table and don't really have like a clear and cohesive strategy. Like I'm just kind of attacking stuff randomly. Here I remember trying desperately to get around this revenge battle card, because if I do, there are things I can play that I'm able to I'm able to go for game. But I think Jimmy's a solid enough player to know that the revenge is really what's keeping me from going off here, so he's going to protect it as well as he can.
I was worried about I know you still have range to put out your big quintuple attack Bardock, and I do have options to deal with that, but I didn't want to burn those options unless I had to. So my easiest out is just turning my 16 sideways when you swing with it.
Yeah,
and with my limited experience against Bardock, I really didn't know when was the correct time to play that. So that's why I'm being skittish around utilizing my hard negates in hand and also utilizing my 16 in play.
Yeah, that bean was just crushing. And here I go into the big guy anyway. I don't really have another play that's really any good. From what I understand, you don't actually have to attack to get the restanding effects on Gamma, so Evolved Defender doesn't really do anything for me. So I figure maybe if I can block 5 times, even if I'm tapped up, I can survive Jimmy's turn here.
I was checking my Z deck there, looking for the Cell Z battle card, because in my head I was like, oh, I could just steal that Bardock and take all the cards with it as well, and then I could get a big triple striker on the Cell, but it's 5 or less, which was very disappointing on me, because I would have loved to be able to make that type of play.
Remind me real quick, because you're playing some interesting tech as well, which is the new 18 card, which I absolutely love. I think she could pop it. I can't remember if it has barrier or not.
It does not. She can remove it.
Yeah. I only run one in the deck, and it's in my energy currently.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Honestly, there's so many decks where this big Bardock is just a liability. Like, I want to like this card so much because I do think the effect is really unique and cool, but without any protections outside of deflect, it's pretty much garbage as a boss monster.
Mm-hmm.
I would say also depending on your hand size, like if he had a big enough card, he could force you to start comboing cards off just to keep it alive to continue blocking.
And that's what he's been doing throughout the turn.
I feel like with such a unique card, such as Bardock, it's a slippery slope of becoming broken. If there was an easy way to put, something like Double Strike or, whatever, or be able to load more cards underneath it, that I feel like that's why the card is kind of lackluster in a lot of matchups when it comes to keyword skills and protections. So I don't know what you do to make it better other than maybe printing a promo for the deck that beefs up the big boy in some way.
Yeah, man, that's my last life.
Yeah, I mean, well, I didn't know if you guys were gonna say anything else between. I was like about to say something, and I heard Jimmy go. I'm like, oh, he's saying it. Okay, I'll wait. All right. With that being said, thank you for tuning in. Gamma versus Bardock crew, great matchup. And with that being said, thank you for tuning in. Keep in mind there's buttons, links, and stuff down below. Feel free to click them there for a reason. Lead us out, guys.
No. Do we get to do a joint version?
You're always complaining about it, so I figured I would let you.
Cards plays something affiliate link TCG medals.
Fluff out.